I just told you earlier that black and brown males are suspended 3 times higher than any other population in the country. What is your suspension data? Principal, listen to me now. If you are the principal of a school that is allowing teachers to suspend kids on Zoom, shame on you, right? Because principals are the only one that can suspend. And if teachers are not allowing kids to get, or trying to police kids, or, well, they didn't turn their video on, so I'm gonna suspend them out of class, or they didn't want to respond in class, so they gotta do after school or Saturday detention in Zoom. We don't know what's going on in these young people's lives. What if the kid doesn't want to turn on the video because his mom or dad punched them in the face and they got a black eye, but they still showed up? What if that kid doesn't want to turn that camera on because they're embarrassed about the conditions they're in, but they still showed up? What if they don't want to turn the camera on because they don't want you to see that the electricity is off in the house, but they still showed up? Stop making assumptions for the negative that every time a kid don't want to turn the camera on is something bad. Folks, we gotta move past these, frivolous little things that we try to beat kids down for. And we have to walk in a spirit of love to say we care about you, we're concerned about you, figure out what's going on with that young person. Pull them aside, build relationships. For 9th graders, you don't know any of these 9th graders. It's important that you build a relationship. For your 6th graders, you don't know any of these 6th graders. It's important that you build a strong relationship. But principals, it's on the responsibility of you to make sure that teachers are building relationships. How do you foster and build relationships in the classroom? That's up to you. So you need to know your graduation rate data. You need to know your suspension data. Shame on you if you're that principal that's allowing teachers to suspend kids off of Zoom and trying to police them in their homes. Shame on you. That's not fair. It's not right. Kids need to be in school. And if they can't be in school, they definitely need to be on these Zoom lessons if they decide to show up. You got to know your formative assessment data. How are kids doing on formative assessments? What's formative assessments? These are the assessments that we give to students that have no points associated with it, but it allows us to know what kids are learning and not learning in this time. There's everybody saying, we don't want state testing and we're not a fan of state testing. How are we going to state test in a pandemic? Well, we need to know how the kids are performing. Like failure is okay. Whoo, that hurt some people. Stop being afraid of failure. What do you mean? You're talking about increased graduation rates and increased student performance. You're talking about failure is okay. It's okay to really look at your data and say, we missed it on this one. Now, how do we get better? Right? Like we're doing something that the country has never done before. We're trying to teach, in distant space, like let the kids take assessments so we can see, okay, when we have brick and mortar, kids perform like this. And then when we have distance learning, they perform like this. And then the schools that have hybrid, they perform like this. So that gives us an understanding with some data to say, where are we with this process of distance learning, hybrid learning, and brick and mortar learning? Because some people are saying, well, some kids are doing well. Okay, then show and tell time. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's see how they're performing on these assessments. There is a high correlation between how kids perform on assessments and what's being taught in the classroom. I'm not a proponent of over-testing kids, but I am a proponent of saying we need to see what they learn. We need to know that they are grasping the information. This is why you take formative and summative assessments, not to beat kids down and fail them, but to let us know as the adults what is actually happening in the classroom. So principals, you have to know the formative assessments of the teachers. You have to know your course passing data. Course passing data is huge. That tells you how kids are performing in the classes that you have. So you have to have that course passing data. Have course passing data by subject, by content area, by teacher. Teachers will say, well, that kid's not showing up for my class. Well, Miss Jones, he's not showing up for your class, but he's showing up for Mr. Jones' class. You have a 30% course passing data. Mr. Jones has a 95% course passing data. You teach the same kids. What's the problem? Because Ms. Jones is the same teacher that the kids don't show up and skip her class. How many kids are skipping Ms. Jones' class? Hanging out in the hallways, hanging out in the stairwells, hanging out in the bathroom. What's going on in Ms. Jones' class that kids don't want to show up? They don't want to show up in person. Listen, thank you for taking time to listen to this entire message. It was a 4-part series on understanding your why and knowing data and how to increase graduation rates for young men of color, and how do you turn around your school from a poor performing school to a high performing school. If you want to purchase the entire series, please inbox me. And if you want to be a part of our 10-week leadership course, inbox me, let me know. We would love to work with your district. And or if you just want me to work one-on-one with you on how to specifically help your school be successful, I am here. Whatever your needs are, whatever you need, do not hesitate in reaching out. Thank you for spending this time with me. Again, from Dr. Mark Abraham. Love you. Bye.